Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, the podcast where we bring you inside the world of joint ventures, strategic partnerships, and powerful collaborations. Whether you're looking to expand your network, find new referral partners, or scale your business, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
I'm not hearing anything.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Partnerships for Profit. I'm the host, Peter Conrad, and we're joined today by Tom Ryan, CEO and founder of Bigly Sales, a technology-driven company transforming business communications through advanced AI solutions. Tom, thank you so much for coming on with us today. How are you doing?
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and your projects.
So Bigly Sales, we're the leader in high volume TCPA-compliant outbound voice AI calls. So we're the guys that you go to if you want to make millions of calls a month. And I think we're the only ones who can do it right now.
Great. Who's looking for you right now? What industries are you solving the biggest problems for?
I mean, we're dealing with a bunch of industries right now. First is probably insurance, right? It doesn't really matter if it's auto insurance or health insurance or life insurance. We're doing a ton of work in that space right now. Home service is another one. They have a lot of agents out in the field. It's hard for them to make phone calls. So we can really supplement what they have going on. We're doing it for personal loans and debt settlement, anything financial services, credit repair, it doesn't really matter. A lot of things in that space. We have some political campaigns going on that we're handling
this year
right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those are about to really start ramping up here over the next few months because, we've got elections coming up,
Primaries and generals start. And yeah, it's a big, busy season for calls for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, you got all those congressional elections coming up. And, we're doing some work for different PACs and charities as well. So a lot of different industries, and then some legal, right? A little bit of legal intake, motor vehicle accident type work, things of that sort.
Sure. So the comparison model is insourced or outsourced call centers.
Yep.
What are the major benefits of a well-developed AI solution over the traditional model?
So there's a lot of benefits. The big thing why I started this business is if you're running a sales group or a call center, and tell me if this sounds familiar, guys. You hire a bunch of people, you train them, and a lot of them walk out the door within the first couple of weeks or months, or, half of them, sometimes they don't even show up, right? You interview the guy, you expect someone to start Monday, they don't show up. You train them for a week, the person walks out the door, they go to lunch, they never come back. I thought maybe it was me for a while, but every single call center person I talk to, every single inside sales team I talk to, it doesn't matter if it's based in the US or in India or the Philippines, wherever it is, we're running into these exact same problems. The training, the hiring, the retention, and as a result of that, the call center has, one of the lowest satisfactions by the customers. They end up hating it because they're always dealing with new reps, don't really know what's going on, oftentimes who speak a different language, is their primary language. The managers hate it because it's a constant headache for them. They always got to hire, they always got to train, it's a never-ending thing. I was talking to a company recently. They said, they hire 60 guys, 40 of them show up for the first day, 20 of them are there after a month.
Right. High attrition. Yeah.
I mean, that's brutal, right? And then you got to pay for the trainers and you got to pay for the recruiters.
And the time investment and everything.
And the time investment, it's terrible. And finally, working in the call centers in the bottom 2% of careers for satisfaction. The people working there don't like it. It's kind of a brutal, soul-crushing job with little room for advancement. So all of the stakeholders kind of hate the call center as it exists right now. And the AI can give you all the benefits of having human agents do this without any of these other problems that we're talking about. You train it, It continuously improves as you train it. You don't have to train it over and over again to do the exact same thing. You can work on the language that works. You can refine that language and then start using that across the board, right? So you can scale up the efficiency of it. Once you give it the right data, you're done, you know? And then the other big benefits, if you're calling outbound, one, it's able to call, huge volumes, right? So, usually most call centers that I deal with, they call stuff for a week, they call stuff for a few days, maybe they called 4 or 5 times, maybe 10 times, and then they're done, right? And then they give up on it. And if they haven't reached that guy in the first 3 or 4 times they call, say a lead comes in at midnight, no one's there working, they try calling the guy the next day, he's not available when they call him, maybe he's still sleeping,
working hours,
2 in the morning, or he's at the office and he's not allowed to take a call. I used to work with a lot of nurses. They have their phones locked in a locker while they're on their shift, right? Not only can they not take the call, like they don't even have access to their cell phone. So, if they don't reach them in the first couple of days, usually that lead ends up hitting the floor. And we make sure that doesn't happen. As long as it's a legal time to call, we call back within the first 10 or 15 seconds of that lead coming in. We get that person on the phone and, we get them qualified.
Right.
And if we don't reach them, we can drip that person for a long period of time and, end up having a much higher contact rate. So if you're buying leads or if you're paying for leads, it doesn't matter if you're buying leads at $100 a lead or $50 a lead, or if you're getting them from Google or Facebook or TikTok or wherever, there's a real cost to that. And to be able to more effectively reach them drops your cost per conversion.
Sure. Yeah. Opportunity cost. Yeah.
So it's just, you're going to reach more leads, you're going to close more deals, and you don't have to pay as much per close.
Sure. And you're working the AI agent off the exact same script, the exact same flow chart that the human agent was working anyway, and they're just able to do it at a higher hit rate with better response times and less drop off. It makes a lot of sense.
That's it. And with leads, people think leads sour by the hour, by the day. They sour by the minute. Right. Someone who filled out that form, they're usually available and thinking about it right now. And I'll tell you a little story. I was looking for a mortgage the other day. Right. So I go online, I punch in my information for the first company. All right, looks okay. So, let me get 3 quotes. I punch in my information for the second company. And then I punch in the information for Rocket Mortgage. And I'm going to say nice things about Rocket Mortgage. I finished punching it in, I hit send, and it feels like instantaneously my phone started ringing. And I looked at it and I said, no way. Did these guys actually call me within 5 seconds of me punching in the lead? And sure enough, I pick up the phone, it's them. And I start talking to them. I'm in the process for them for 5 or 10 minutes. I get called by both of the other companies. Do you think I hung up with Rocket?
You're already engaged.
The other 2 calls?
Yeah.
No, I was already on with them. I'm in the middle of the process. I don't know who's calling me on the other line, right? So the first person to pick up, to get that phone call out the door, oftentimes wins. Some company, sometimes consumers shop around to 3 or 4 companies, but sometimes they just go with the first company they talk to as long as the price seems realistic.
Right.
If you have a problem and you need it dealt with right away, that first company, sometimes that's all you're going to talk to.
Right.
So,
the margins are slim enough that the odds of significantly improving are almost, negligible anyway. So your ability to get in first is your ability to succeed.
Or they have a real problem,
or it's urgent. Yeah.
Yeah. We're dealing with plumbers, right? One of the groups we're dealing with is plumbers on home service. They want it right now, right? If someone's if your toilet's overflowing or there's water spraying all over your kitchen, right? You're not shopping around for 3 or 4 quotes. It's the first guy who can get to your house is getting that job, right? So you try calling those guys back a day later, you got no chance.
Right.
And there's a lot of things like that. So, if you're talking about $100,000 job, maybe it's going to take a little more time. But, a lot of people, they call one number And if those guys do a good job, that's it. Their search is over.
Right.
So
and it leads to the opportunity for repeat business and individual referrals and everything else if you can lock in that first customer at that first time.
yeah. So if you respond first, a lot of times your win rate is going to go up dramatically by just being able to respond within a couple of seconds.
Right.
And if you look at your business and it's taking you a couple of days to respond, 24 hours, 48 hours, you're just flushing money down the toilet with whatever you're spending on marketing. You got to get that fixed first.
And then on top of that, especially in things like home services, there's the off hours availability too. You can't staff a plumbing services call center 24 hours a day. The margin just isn't there. But if you're in an AI environment, if somebody goes on at 2:00 in the morning, because that's when the pipe burst, and you can get an AI agent in response to them, you get there first. 24-hour availability is another huge benefit.
Yeah, massive. So anything on the inbound side. Now for outbounds, we got to follow TCPA, which means even if someone filled out a form, and I can get more into the TCPA piece in a little bit. A lot of small companies don't know about this, but if you're doing this wrong, it's actually an existential threat to your business. So I'll jump into that more later, but you're exactly right with everything that you're saying. 24 hours a day, someone calls inbound, it's 2 a.m., 1 a.m. Again, maybe we're talking about a nurse. They don't get off work till 9:00 at night. They go have dinner. It's midnight. They want to see if they can get something taken care of. They call the number, usually it goes to a voicemail or something like that. Well, now they can actually get it done. Right? They can go, they can get qualified. And then we have a lot of fun things we can do. We can send out contracts after the qualification process, right? We can send out payment links after the payment process. Sure. We're working right now on taking PCI compliant payments over the phone. That'll be done in the next few weeks here. We can do live transfers. We can schedule appointments, right? So if someone is high value and you say, look, if this guy's worth more than $10,000, I want to talk to them. We want that lead coming directly over to the sales team. If they're worth less than that, maybe we send out a Stripe link.
Yeah. Right.
You can set it up however you want to, if someone says, hey, it's an emergency and I need a plumber right now, just since we were using plumbers before, we can say, okay, that lead's going to come through. But otherwise, if they're not willing to pay the $100 surcharge for, getting work done in the middle of the night, we can schedule them for the next morning to have someone come out, right? So we can bifurcate it and set it up however they want.
Break that flow chart down and direct the lead to whatever makes the most sense.
100%. Qualify it. And then qualified, so just to give you an idea what the Gen AI can do, this is like having ChatGPT or Claude on the back end of it. You ask a question, it'll be able, you don't have to give it multiple choice. You don't have to say press 1. It's going to have a conversation just like we're talking right now.
Yeah.
Just like we're talking right now. It's going to have a conversation with you. And then it can ask open-ended questions. What was the date of your car accident?
Mm-hmm.
How much money are you looking for on that loan? Right? And get an answer and then decide what to do based on that answer.
Right. Not press 1 for MVA, press 2 for personal. You don't have to.
Yeah.
What was the nature of the accident?
Yeah. What happened? What was the accident? That's exactly right. So we ask a lot of the open-ended questions on there. And, my favorite thing with it is to just let it talk to the person for a while.
Right.
Talk to them, give them some of the selling points on our business, find out, what they're looking for. And then, if they seem like a good fit, say, hey, you sound like a great fit for what we do. Why don't we send you over a contract? Or why don't we
look at solutions? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, sure. So artificial intelligence, being able to have these organic back and forths with something that's processing the script and the flow chart in the background. It's redefining sales and support. It's improving customer engagement. What do you think the future is? Is there still room for a combination hybrid where you feed leads through? At what point does the AI need a person to step in and improve the flow of the lead generation?
So today, most of what we're doing are simple calls, right?
Right.
What's that? It's a qualification call. We ask 3, 4, 5 questions. We do a transfer. We ask 3, 4, 5 questions. We send that payment link. We schedule an appointment. Where it's going and what we're working on right now is being able to do calls of any length, of any complexity, in multi-stage calls. So we had to add the memory. It's a big thing in AI right now, is making sure it actually remembers what happens. Because the way the AI works is every time it starts a new conversation or you ask a new question, there's no memory there. Now, a couple of the top models have started building in a memory, so it looks at it as one session, and they're working a little better. Some of them haven't. So if you use something like Grok, you ask one question and then you ask a follow-up question, and it has no idea what you're talking about because it has forgotten the previous question.
New thread.
And OpenAI, they've done a little better job of creating that working memory of what you're talking about. But if I close that window and I come back in and I ask the next question, it's not going to remember. Typically it's not going to remember. So it's making sure we have that memory piece figured out. And, your memory, there's a reason most of us don't have a photographic memory. It's because you kind of want to get rid of the stuff that isn't that important to make room for the important things. You can't remember everything that you've ever seen,
right?
With perfect details. With these, it works the same way. We want to make sure that it's being fed the most important information, not a call log, with thousands of lines.
Right.
So
big picture.
These aren't as simple as they might sound, how to do some of these things, but we're adding that agentic memory to it. We're adding the orchestration system around it. If anyone here has played with like Codex or Claude Code or Replit, that sort of orchestration system of how to loop, when to loop. So we're building this out as we speak. I don't think anyone has it right for the calls right now. Everyone wants to map out every interaction, how it works. If this happens, then do this. If this happens, then do this. If this happens, then do this. Well, that's not AI.
That's
right?
just Boolean flowcharts.
You have a flowchart then.
Yeah.
So we can make it a much more natural conversation, without trying to account for every possible combination. I mean, once you start getting these big numbers and you say, okay, there's, 100 different permutations of this. And then, 100 times 99 times 98 times 97. Like you start getting to these numbers that are just astronomical. You
Sure.
can't possibly map out every interaction once it starts getting that large. So to come up with a better orchestration system for how that works is what we're working on right now, where we'll be able to, I think we're a few months out.
Okay.
We'll be able to do any length call. We'll be able to take that insurance call, barring what some of the regulations might be, but that insurance call or that debt settlement call or that credit repair call or that home service call and take it all the way to fruition.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about compliance, like you were talking about. You've got TCPA and HIPAA, where the big things when we're talking about health information, personal information, and what you're allowed to do just in general with calls. How is AI complying with what's there and getting ready for what's going to have to be at least a little bit of a update and improved language in how some of those regulations run?
Which one do you want me to start with, HIPAA or TCPA?
Let's do TCPA first.
Okay, TCPA, there's very specific rules on what you are and what you aren't allowed to do. So this has existed for a while, and what it used to be is every once in a while you'd get a TCPA violation. You were probably making them all day long, but you didn't really care about it because the penalties weren't that big and no one really sued. So if you ran into someone, you'd get kind of a nuisance annoyance lawsuit where they'd want $5,000 to go away, and then you'd pay them the $5,000 and say they can never sue you again. Over the last few years, it's changed that most of these cases are now being done as a class action. Right. So I think the class actions have increased approximately 1,000% over the last 5 years. In 2023, there was 500 class actions. 2024, there was 1,000. 2025, there was 2,000. This year, there's going to be 3,000 or 4,000. And why are they going up so much? It's because these lawyers are getting astronomical sums. So, for example, Citibank just had to pay $30 million in a settlement. Their potential liability might have been $1 billion or $2 billion, right? But they settled for $30 million. And you'd say, well, maybe that's an exception. There was something like 10 or 15 settlements last year, that were 7 or 8 figures.
Multi-million, yeah.
Multi-million. There was a little solar company that they didn't have the money. And they said, I can't pay 30 million. I don't have the money. And the lawyers came back and said, no problem. Just pay us $2 million a year for the next 15 years. Right. So why should you care about this? Because it can put you out of business is what it really comes down to. They can come after you for millions and millions of dollars if you're not doing things the right way. Now, what's the right way? The basic, and I'm not a lawyer, right? This isn't legal advice, but, I do know a little bit about this stuff. So the right way means if I'm dealing with consumers, I need an opt-in to call the person. I need what is called written consent, express written consent, I believe is the legal language. And that means when someone clicks on a form, there needs to be some language that says, I'm giving them permission to call. If we're using AI, it should say this could include generative AI, pre-recorded voices, things along those lines. They have a little checkbox there for them to click. And then they check that off and they click your button and you have express written consent. You should probably, just so you're protected, use something called Trusted Form, which is the industry leader that actually takes a screenshot of what they're doing and records that person signing your consent form. So if they're on that page for 30 seconds, they're going to have a 30-second recording. And then they hold that for 5 years, which exceeds the statute of limitations for any of these lawsuits. The statute of limitations is 4 years. What one of these industrious lawyers can do if they come in is they will sue you and then they'll say, hey, I want all of your records on every call that you've made over the last 4 years to see if you've ever made an illegal phone call, because we found 3 or 4 instances of you calling an illegal person and we have decided there's a class. And if you give them your records, you're dead. They will find something that you weren't supposed to do within there. And they're going to bill you for their time of searching through the records at probably $1,000 an hour to go in to try to find exactly how much money they can sue you for and exactly how much that you owe. So you never want to do that. The best way is to avoid one of these lawsuits altogether, right? And that's where the compliance comes in. So you need to have that expressed written consent. If you're not getting that, you're playing with fire. If you have that expressed written consent, you need to make sure you're calling during allowable business hours. You can call or text from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. Those are the federal statutes. Each state then has different rules. Some of them have velocity rules. Like in Florida, you can only call 3 times within 24 hours. If you look at Rhode Island, you can't call past 6 o'clock at night. I can't call Texas or Illinois before 9 a.m. There's certain places like Oklahoma, if there's a state of emergency, you're not allowed to call. And then there's all these weird individual state rules about days that are prohibited. Can't call on Christmas, you can't call on Thanksgiving, right? You can't call on Mardi Gras Day in Louisiana, right, which is a fun one. So these are rules that probably no one on your sales team knows. And again, people have been able to get away with it for a while, but this has become a cash grab for these lawyers. And, the odds of you getting burned by this are going up by about 100% a year over the last couple of years. And it looks like that case is going to continue. It's going to continue to double or almost double for the foreseeable future because the lawyers, they like the money.
Sure.
That's basically how it works. So use a system like this. All the rules are built in. You can't make a mistake. You're never going to call more times than you should in a day. You're never going to call at an illegal time of day. The system will block it. If someone's a known litigator, we'll block that person as well because there's about 1,000 guys, 2,000 guys that are causing most of the problems in the U.S. that they'll have 50 or 100 lawsuits that they've done.
Right.
It's basically their full-time job. And, on any of the data that you buy, we were doing this for a pack, so it was allowed, but we went through a list. We found 500 litigators on the list. There was literally 500 guys who make their living off of suing you.
Right.
On the data set that they gave us.
Waiting on calls. To test the compliance. Yeah.
Just hoping that you're going to call them so they can file a lawsuit against you. So again, if you haven't been burned by it yet, growing at 100% a year, it's something to watch out for, and you really want to be doing something the right way.
Yeah.
The other reason you want to be doing something the right way is, we've had people come in and we look at their data and they tell us it's compliant, and they, attest to us it's compliant, and then we call it and we say, there's no way this is compliant, man. 30% of your numbers are invalid. A lot of the names you have are not the correct names, right? We want to see your trusted forms and your denial lead tokens. And they don't have them. We say, hey, we can't have you doing these sort of calls on our platform, right? Exactly. And from a KYC process, we'll stop them. But we see 10 to 100 times the conversion rate on the data where the people are actually getting it the proper way.
Real data sets. Yeah.
100 times.
Yeah.
So instead of someone 1 out of every 1,000 or 2,000 people converting, we might have a guy where we make 20 phone calls and we turn 1 out of every 20 calls into a live transfer.
Right. 1 or 2. Yeah.
Which, 1 out of every 20 calls, if you think about it, it's 5%. That doesn't sound like a lot. Well, there's 3 people who picked up the phone, and if 1 or 2 of them is actually turned into a live transfer, that's spectacular, right? That's a spectacular hit rate. If the people who actually answered, we got a human, anywhere from 30 to 70% of them saying, yeah, I want to do this right now. Let's go. You don't need nearly as many leads. You don't have nearly as much wasted time. It's a better experience for the consumer. It's the legal way to do things, and you'll make more money if you do it that way. The difference between all of the companies I see that are really killing it, they have a great lead source that they figured out, or multiple great lead sources that they figured out, versus the guys who are, scrambling around trying to figure out what to do, still calling, for all intents and purposes, the phone book.
Yeah.
You'll get 5 or 10 guys in those shops. They'll struggle. They'll barely make ends meet. They'll barely have enough to survive and keep that business alive and going. They can never grow it. They can never sell it. Versus the guys who have that data figured out. Those businesses scale like crazy. You can make lots of mistakes and still be successful because you have so many good quality leads coming in.
Yeah, good qualified information. Yeah, sure. In the last couple of minutes, you want to talk a little bit more about the PII and the HIPAA side of actually getting all this data on so many leads and data sets?
Again, for the things, HIPAA is another one. This was by the government. I think last I looked, the penalties could be up to $3 million a day. Obviously, that would probably be for a mass general or a permanente or something like that. They'd be getting fined, and that wouldn't be your first fine. That would be if you kind of thumbed your nose at the government, that they come after you like that. But again, just absolutely massive fines if you're not doing it right. The way that we've handled it, we found an outside provider to help us get certified. It was the same guys that we ended up using for our SOC 2 compliance. So 80% of SOC 2 and HIPAA is kind of the same checklist. With HIPAA, the big thing is personal identifiable information.
PII,
that we can't be saying, Joe Schmo at 123 Main Street just went in for a vasectomy, right? That having that data out there, if that data was to leak, you would get in massive trouble. You have to have roles and permissions set up within your system to make sure that not everyone in your company can see it. Only the smallest amount of people absolutely necessary should be able to see it. And I really think you can get that down to almost 0 people in your organization. Right. Why can't I say John from Florida is coming in for his appointment at 12:30 and give him an appointment number?
Anonymize it, exactly.
And have it totally anonymized. So that's actually our solution that we're doing, where anything that's HIPAA compliant, we're making sure the data is encrypted. We're making sure the rows are encrypted. we're making sure that the least amount of people possible have access to that data. So maybe we'll have 1 or 2 people in our organization who might be able to see it if they chose to. But it's never going to pop up. And the way that you look at it, it's just going to say John from Florida.
Right. Minimum answer to the query. Yeah.
That's exactly. And even on the recordings and stuff, if I'm just calling John, hey, John, we're calling about your vasectomy appointment that you have next Thursday. Can we confirm you? And the guy says, yes. Well, why do I need his last name? Why do I need his physical address? Why do I need, his email address? Why do I need to show that stuff in our system to someone? We can have that hidden behind the scenes. If we want to send an email, we can automate that email out with the confirmation on it, and not put the name of the appointment there, just put where he's going. So there's a bunch of things along those lines that you can do to make sure you're protected. And there's a bunch of companies out there now. I forget which one we're using today. We looked at 4 or 5 of them, but there's a bunch of companies. If you put in like HIPAA compliance or PCI compliance or SOC 2 compliance, that will pop up. They're using AI to help you with the compliance process. It's probably a few weeks instead of months of work to do it now.
Set up. Yeah.
They'll walk you through exactly what you need to do. They'll give you a certificate on it.
Yeah, makes sense. All right. Thanks, Tom. This has been a great conversation, a lot of good detail, a lot of valuable information for the businesses that are trying to do this the right way and in a scalable way. So thank you so much for that.
No, I really appreciate it. And again, we're the guys, if you need to make millions of calls, come talk to Bigley Sales, come talk to me.
All right. Where can we find you? What are your main outlets for finding conferences that you attend, websites that people can reach out to you on?
Yeah, go to bigleysales.com. We're going to do a ton of conferences this year. So if you're at InsurTech, come and see us. If you're at LeadsCon, see us. If you're at Medicarians, come out and see us.
Right.
I know I'm missing a bunch. If you're at the Polys, come out and see us. If you're going to be going to CCW, come out and see us.
All right. Terrific. Hey, thanks a lot, Tom. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a great day. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Partnerships for Profit. We hope you've gained valuable insights on how to form profitable partnerships and take your business to the next level. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Got a partnership story to share or someone you'd like to see featured on the show? Reach out to us. Until next time, keep building those partnerships for profit.